Hi guys, welcome to the Connolly Method. Today I want to talk to you about the heart-mind connection. And the reason I want to talk to you about this today is because it's been a bit of a theme in my practice, but also in a lot of people's lives at the moment, where we seem to be getting really lost in our lives. We seem to be getting lost with our decisions and our choice points, which is basically a time in our lives where we need to make a decision and change our direction, where we get so caught up in the shoulds or what we need to be doing or where society sits or what's actually happening with other people to try and make our own minds up for us. And I'm just telling you right now, it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because the only real person that can tell you what you need to do or where you need to be going or what is right for you is you. And the only way that you can know that without a shadow of a doubt is to connect your intuition and connect to your heart. Now, I know a lot of people kind of poo-poo this as an idea or as a general concept of being, but there is no other way of really knowing for sure what it is that you're supposed to be doing or where it is that you're supposed to be going. And I want to give you guys a few tips on how to do it today, because the more that you can learn how to do this, the more that you can really connect to yourself and be in tune with yourself, the better and better and better your decisions are going to be. And they're going to be more and more and more attuned to you, where you need to be going, your soul path, and also to your own happiness, which is really ultimately why we're here, right? We're here to be happy, we're here to feel love, we're here to really connect with ourselves and also with other people around us. So for you guys out there, if you're really kind of a bit lost on your direction, if you're not really sure what you want to be doing in your life, if you have these decisions to be made, or even if you're kind of a little bit stuck with how to look after yourself. How do you look after yourself with food and with sleep and with exercise and a whole bunch of other things? This technique will just help you to really kind of tune into that, and it'll help you to really understand what it is that your own body desires and what your body needs in order to move forward and in order to be happy. And so there's a few different kind of techniques I want to bring in today from various different people, but at the end of the day, it's all designed to do one thing, and it's to help you to connect to you. And when I talk about the heart-mind connection, there's a couple of reasons why I do that. If we truly just rely on our own brain to make choices, what we've got stuck in there is a whole bunch of other things. So often when you're making a decision and you've got the what about this and I don't know about this person and should I be doing that and should I be doing this, it can actually create a lot of confusion for you, and it makes it really, really tricky for people to actually make a choice that they're happy with, but also make a choice that they're really confident with. And if you don't make a choice that you're confident with, it's very hard to stick to it. It can be really hard to stick to decisions at the best of times, but most particularly when we're having trouble really sticking to a choice, it's usually because there's something about it that doesn't feel quite right. There's something about it that you've made a choice on that isn't actually in your best interests. And those things are always going to fall through eventually. People find that in all sorts of parts of their lives. It could be from the job that they're taking. It could be from the person that they marry. It could be from how they choose to spend their time with their exercising or with friends that they choose to hang out with. And all the while you'll get this like little niggle in your mind or in your heart, and you'll just know there's something about this person, this situation, this job that doesn't feel right. And if that's talking to you, that's the universe whispering in your ear saying, this doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, you need to really ask yourself why. So when we talk about making decisions with our brain or thinking with our brain only, we're much more likely to come up with a to-do list or a pros and cons list. We're much more likely to have questions in there about what did my mother do? What did my neighbor do? How does my friend look after herself? How does my friend decide to eat or live or do whatever she wants? I want to be like her. And we do the really bad big C thing. It's not cancer, it's comparison, where we're actually spending all of our time comparing ourselves to everybody outside of us and not actually listening to our own wisdom. So our brain will take into account all of our ancestral patterning. So what did my mum do? What did her mum do? What did my dad do? What did his dad do? That kind of patterning. It'll also take into account familial patterning. So how did I grow up? How did my mum make decisions? How did I interact in the family unit? How did everybody in the family deal with crises, with situations, with decisions? That will be in your mind. The community that you're in, the people that you spend time with, the friends that you've got, all of those people will interact and affect how you make those choices if you're truly in your head. Magazines, what we watch on TV, how other people look, how other people live their lives, all of that makes a really big difference to how we actually approach and look at our things. And if you notice, people who watch a ridiculous amount of television, particularly quite aggressive, depressing television, are much more likely to sit on that depressive scale. And people who are much more likely to watch, or either not watch television altogether, or when they do watch uplifting stuff, you'll tend to find that their depression scale is nowhere near as high. And why is that? Is because our environment shapes how we think. Our environment, the people in our lives, shape how we make decisions. And so when we've got this kind of brain fog, it's literally lots and lots and lots of voices telling us how to do things. It makes it really, really tricky to feel really, really strong about what we're making a choice on. So that's the brain stuff. So what I want to talk to you about next is the heart stuff. So the heart stuff is really about, how do we connect to our deeper knowing? How do we really know what the choice is? And I'm going to give you a couple of tools as we go on about how to actually connect to your heart. But I just want to reiterate how different it is. So your heart it's basically it's the main kind of vibration. It's the main kind of circuitry that's connecting you to the rest of the world. And there's a whole company around this. It's called Heart Math. It's in America, and it's basically designed around how the heart, which is the most vibrant kind of electric current in the body, connects to your surroundings. There's a lot of people that talk about this, but basically around your heart space is usually where we connect to our intuition the most. Now, our intuition is directly connected to source energy, which is basically the higher power, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, whatever it is for you. But it's also connected to the matrix, which is us connected to every other person on the planet. Every other person and every being on the planet, we're all connected. And so as we're sitting in that level of connection, we have this connection of our heart to everyone. And the more that we sit with our heart, we're actually sitting with the bigger picture. We're sitting with how it is that we actually function in the world and what it is that is right for us. And the decisions that come through are usually very, very clear. They're usually very succinct. So they're usually not one big rambling comment. It's usually just a knowing. It's either a knowing or it's like a one sentence thing, which is an absolute. And when we hear it and when we know it, it's just this inner kind of, yeah, that's it. That's what it is. That's my knowing. That's exactly what it needs to be. And when we can kind of sit with that on a regular basis, we question it less and less and less. So the two main differences, the head stuff is usually, it has a lot of questions around it. It has a ifs, buts, whatevers. It has a lot of kind of uncertainty often. Our heart decision is usually one that's right on point. We know exactly what it is. It's a deep inner knowing that we're connected to, and we don't question it. Now, for all of those of you out there who have never made a heart-based choice before, I can totally understand how this can be confusing. And usually when we make a heart-based choice, we have to get out of everything that society has taught us. Society has taught us how to make rational decisions. It's taught us how to make decisions that make sense to society, make sense to the general way of things. And unfortunately or fortunately, that's not usually the way of the individual. The way of the individual is usually just that, an individual choice. And the more that we can trust our own level of understanding and our own level of being okay with our choices, the easier and easier and easier it gets. So what I'd like to say is the more that we can kind of connect to our heart space and get out of our head, the easier these choices become, and the easier and easier it is for us to actually step forward with certainty into our lives. So the course that I've written, it's the Connolly Method. The website is above. It's theconnellymethod.com.au. If you want to jump on the mailing list, we are literally days away from launching a huge intuitive eating course. It's a 13-week course where you can learn to really connect to your body in a very deep way. And it's going to give you a lot of tools on how to look after yourself, how to remove any sabotaging you've got around your food habits, around your sleeping habits, around your water habits, around even just looking after yourself emotionally. And it gives you some really good tips and hints on how to connect to your intuition on a daily basis. And the reason I teach this is because the more that we can do that, the more and more comfortable we're going to feel with ourselves, we're going to feel in our lives, the happier we're going to be, and also the healthier we're going to be. So there's one of the techniques that I'm going to teach you, I'll do that right now, is based on a man called Greg Braden. So he's an author in the US. He's one of the kind of big voices in the US, and he teaches about bridging spirituality and reality. And he uses science to do it. It's very exciting stuff that he's doing. But one of his techniques I want to show you, because I'm doing something very similar with my people, but this is just yet another way to do it. So the reason he talks about this is there's a whole bunch of different health benefits from connecting your heart to your mind. So he talks also about the brain being a little bit too loud and the heart being very, very clear and connected, but it goes even beyond that. So if we can connect our heart to our mind, where they're actually functioning together and where they're in alignment with each other, the decisions that we make become quite clear, but also our body has this amazing reaction to it. And the reaction is that it slows our heart rate down. It actually helps us with our antioxidant properties. It helps us to become healthier. It actually helps us to fight inflammation and disease if our heart and our mind are actually connected. And the other really big thing is that it actually helps us connect with anti-aging hormones. So the more that we're connected to our heart and the more that we can bring that heart connection into our mind, the healthier and younger we're going to get and feel every day. And he's done a whole bunch of studies that kind of look at, or he's looked at different studies where people have lived these inordinate amount of years, and it all comes back to this concept of being connected to your heart. And, you know, you think it's kind of some hippy-dippy thing, but it actually has a very, very real health benefit to do that. So the more that you can stay connected to your heart space, the more you're going to be able to really make those choices, but also be really confident and be really happy within yourself. Okay, so the technique that he said is literally about connecting with the heart first. So you just place both your hands over your heart area. Usually in the center through your heart chakra, so it's kind of in the middle of your sternum, and you just put both hands on there. And you just start by taking some big breaths in. So you take a breath in for 5 seconds. And out for 5 seconds. Take a breath in for 5 seconds. And out. One of the benefits of doing this, firstly, by putting your hand on your heart, you're actually bringing awareness to it. And when you bring awareness to your heart, then your heart has much more of an ability to connect not only to its surroundings, but to the rest of your body. So as you put your hands on your heart space, it's actually a really beautiful way to bring in awareness and just take your energy and your attention down to your heart space. So when you're having a bit of trouble trying to figure out what you want to do, or if you're in a decision-making process and you're in your head, even just putting your hands on your heart and taking a few breaths is really powerful here. So that's step one. So you breathe in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds. The slow breathing is specifically designed to make you feel safe. The safer you feel, the more likely you're going to be able to tune into your heart, and the more likely you're going to be able to get answers when you ask. It also slows down the heart rate so that you feel calmer and you're not in a fright and flight mode. Most people these days live constantly in a state of stress. They live constantly in a state of adrenaline and a fright and flight situation. And the more that you can breathe slowly and connect to your body, the less and less and less you sit in fright and flight. So when you sit in fright and flight, your adrenaline flows, your adrenal glands, which are your stress glands, they just pump too hard. and that causes inflammation and a whole bunch of different body problems. The more that you can slow your breathing right down, slow your heart rate, connect to your body, you're jumping to the opposite. So you're stepping out of that fright and flight situation and you're staying in a place of connection to your body. So that's 2 steps. Hands on your heart, breathe in slowly for 5, breathe out slowly for 5. So here's the last step now. It's really important, and this is what Greg teaches as well. He teaches to think of 4 different concepts, and these 4 different concepts are all about heart connection, but it's all about the vibration of these emotions can bring us into a state of oneness with our body and also with the planet, which is pretty cool. So those 4 are appreciation, gratitude, care, and compassion. I'll say it again: appreciation, gratitude, care, and compassion. The 4 of those are really strong vibratory emotions, and the more that we can concentrate on that with that slow breathing, the more and more and more our heart aligns to our brain. So we're going to create these different kind of brain waves in our body that is specifically designed to create that connection between heart and mind. But also what it does is it brings in this new level of awareness to our intuition and to our heart and what it is that we actually want. It's very cool. So some people say, what about love? I think love is pretty cool, so sometimes I'll add that in too, but that's not what he alludes to in his work. So just do what feels right for you. I'll often add love in because I think it's a very important part of it. But those other 4 emotions are super important. So as you're doing your breathing in for 5 seconds, breathing out for 5 seconds, concentrate on what brings you those feelings. The appreciation, the gratitude, the care, the compassion, whatever it is in your life that makes you feel those things, concentrate on that. It's very important to do that. And then you get a whole body response to those feelings, and it's very, very, very powerful. And the trick is, once you've gotten all of those 3 things, the hand on the heart, the breathing, and the emotions, is you need to keep that going for around 3 minutes. So the 3 minutes is enough to get your body into a completely different state, and I invite you to try that as soon as this live is finished. It's very powerful. And what it does, and this is what Greg talks about, it gives you 6 hours of antioxidant and anti-aging benefits. 6 hours just from doing 3 minutes of breathing. So imagine if you did that 3 minutes of breathing twice a day. You've already got anti-inflammation stuff happening in your body. You've got feel-good feelings happening in your body. You've got connection to your intuition, and you've also got anti-aging stuff going on. So it seems like for 6 minutes a day, we can totally change our world. We can totally change our health, and we can change the way that we look at everything. So that's really pretty cool. So that's the technique number 1. That's very, very, very powerful, and I've really enjoyed doing that. I've noticed that the more that I do that, the calmer I feel and the more intuitive I feel. I already get different ways to tune into my intuition, and I really quite enjoy doing that. And this is just another way of kind of bringing in all those other amazing health benefits as well. So option number 2, if you're just feeling really, really, really stressed, if you're in your head way too much and you're just finding it really tricky and you say, posh to that ridiculous 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, I don't have the time for this. There's one quicker way to do it, and it's just going to bring in a different level of energy into your body. And it's a little bit quicker. It's not necessarily going to bring that heart-brain connection in, but it does help you to slow everything down, and it also helps you to get out of that fright and flight. So the way that we do that is it's called nostril breathing, but it's a specific kind of nostril breathing. So what you do is you cover your right nostril and you breathe in through your left nostril, and then you breathe out through the right nostril. So I'll just show you. You breathe in and out. Breathe in through the left. Breathe out through the right. Now, depending on how sensitive you are, that can have you in a state of peace within 5 seconds or a minute and a half. It just really depends on the person. Depends on how stressed you are. It depends on how in your brain you are, and you'll know you're in your brain because you're feeling really flustered, and you're more likely to feel anxious, and you're more likely to feel just totally out of control of the situation. When you're in a state of overwhelm, you're much more likely to be in your mind and you're overthinking things. If you're an overthinker, this is a really important thing to do. Every time you find yourself getting really flustered or overwhelmed or just not able to really see basically the situation as it is or as you think it should be. So breathe in through the left nostril, breathe out through the right nostril. Super powerful. So another technique number 3, is one where you kind of use light. So you can bring light in. And a lot of people use this when they want to be connecting a little bit more spiritually, but not necessarily. Light is a very, very powerful thing to help bring through your body, because it helps to remove any negative feelings. It helps to remove inflammation. It helps to bring you in a deep, deep connection between the earth and between source energy. You can call it God, the universe, whoever you want it to be. It doesn't really matter. But what it does do is it kind of brings you into a sense of feeling centered and also feeling grounded. So when I talk about grounded, I talk about this concept of being really safe in your body, feeling safe in your body, feeling present in the moment. If you're constantly not present, if you're constantly feeling a little bit out of it, if you've kind of got this foggy head and you're just not quite connecting to a conversation or a situation or whatever it is that you want to be connecting to, this can be really helpful, because the more that we're in our head, the less and less and less we feel safe in our body. And we feel less safe in our body because we're not actually listening to it and we're not tuned into it. And if we're not tuned into our body, it's really hard to feel safe. So this is a really powerful thing to do to help us feel safe. It helps us feel grounded, as in present in the moment and sitting on the planet, rather than off in our dream world. And you'd be surprised how many people live almost permanently in their dream world. It's a lot. So if people are not very present, if they're off with the fairies, literally, you know, it's often because they're not actually safe in their bodies. They're not actually feeling their bodies in a safe way. So the way that I do this is I get people to pretend that the center of the earth, we're bringing light up from the center of the earth, and we're bringing it up from the center of the earth. We're bringing it through the bottom of our feet. We're bringing it up through our bodies. We're bringing it through the top of our head, and then we're bringing it up to source. And then when we've done that, we imagine the light coming back down from source, through the top of our head, through our bodies, down our legs and out through our feet into the center of the earth. We can do that with our breath as well. So we can breathe in from the center of the earth. When you imagine that light coming through around the midline, around your belly button or just above your belly button, then you can breathe out and you bring the light through the top of your head up until source. Now that can be as slow or as quick as you like, but the slower you do it and the more you embody it, the more powerful it is. So then you can bring the breath in, you bring the breath in through source, you bring it in through to about your midline and breathe out down to the center of the earth. Now it only needs about 3 or 4 breaths for you to start to feel a little bit more centered and a little bit more in your body, but it's actually quite powerful because it really gives you a good ability to, it brings you a good ability to actually check into your heart space, but also to feel a little bit more safe with your decisions. If you're feeling really flustered, if you're overwhelmed, if you're anxious, if you're depressed, all of those are signs that you're not actually living in the present moment. And if you're not living in the present moment, it's very, very, very tricky to connect to your heart and connect to your intuition because you're too much in the fright and flight state of being. So these 3 exercises are pretty quick. They don't take very long, but what they do is they actually really allow you to connect to your body in a strong way. They connect you to the earth, to your heart. They connect your brain and your heart. It connects to your sense of well-being, to your health, to anti-aging, to a whole bunch of other amazing health properties, and even more importantly, to our intuition, which is kind of the whole point. So when we're connecting really deeply in that heart-centered place, whether you've done the 5-second breathing, whether you've done the nostril breathing, whether you've done the light coming through, all of those ways are going to bring us into a state of present moment time, and you'll notice it. You'll actually notice yourself feeling a little bit more, ooh, I feel a bit more real now, right? I feel a little bit more present. I don't feel like my head's gone off in a million different directions. You kind of feel quite grounded and centered. So when you feel at that place, when you feel that, just a state of a little bit more calm, when you feel, oh yes, that breathing in that heart and mind connection is actually, I feel slower, I feel a little bit more peaceful, then you can start asking your body questions. And the question could be anything. The question could be, do I take this job? Do I stay with this man or woman? Do I live here? What's the best thing for me right now? And then you just wait for the answers. And the answers are usually very quick, they're usually very succinct, and they're usually very strong. And when you get those answers, it's just this deep knowing. You just know that that answer is correct for you. And when you know that that answer is correct for you, there is no questioning it. You don't need to, because it feels absolutely true for you. And I'd invite you to look for this in every element of your life. So recently I went and had a session with an amazing Chinese herbalist, and she gave me some information about my health, which I had never heard before. I'd been looking for 20 years for information about this particular health thing. And when she told it to me, it just resonated me with such truth that I didn't question it. And I didn't need to question it because I knew I'd finally found an answer. And I was so excited by this because, you know, when you look and you look and you look and you know that there's things that are just not quite right, it can be really, really tricky to stick to it. So if you go to somebody and they tell you something and you go, yeah, no, that just doesn't feel right to me, it's probably because it's not quite right for you. But when you know it, when it's your deep inner knowing, then there is no questioning it. So being a health practitioner, I'm connected to a whole bunch of other health practitioners. And when I've spoken to a few of them, they've kind of said, oh, what about this? Or what about that? Or have you tried this? Or have you tried that? And every time I just felt this inner, no, I'm okay. I feel good. This is right for me. I'm following this path and I'm showing trust in this situation because this is right. So I want you to keep finding that in your life. And I want you to really remember that every time there's a decision point or a choice point or something where you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit out of sorts, connect to one of those three methods. It's going to bring you back into yourself. Then you can ask yourself whatever question you want, and the odds are you're going to get a really sharp, short, and very strong yes or no answer, whatever it looks like to you. So it does take a little bit of practice sometimes. Sometimes people get it really quickly, and other times they just need a little bit of coaching to get there. So if you need more coaching, if you want some help, jump onto the group, because that would be really fantastic. We'd love to have you. And if you feel like you can do it on your own, that's fantastic. Please try those 3 breathing exercises. They're really, really powerful, and they can help you in a whole bunch of other ways. So if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to kind of write it in the messages below. And if you would like to jump onto our group, the thing should be above. It's theconnellymethod.com.au. Jump on and join our community. It's very exciting. We should be launching any day, which is super, super exciting. And it's going to give you a whole bunch of information on how to really look after yourself and how to just remove any sabotages you've got to looking after yourself. So I'll just stay on here for a minute, and if there's any questions, please just type it in and I'll get back to you if there's a question in there. And if this resonates with you, if you feel like this is something that you would like to share with others, please just share the video. I'm going to have it on my feed, and I want to teach as many people as I can to help connect to their heart space, because it's such an important part of our lives, and it's something that we grossly neglect in so many ways. And the more we neglect it, I honestly feel that the more out of sorts we become with ourselves, and the more out of sorts we become with ourselves, the more we get messages via symptoms like illness and disease and depression and anxiety, and things just going wrong in our lives. If things go wrong in our lives, it's a sign that there's something inside of us that isn't vibrating at what we want. And we're constantly getting feedback from the universe about what it is that we're putting out there. So if you want something in particular and you're heading in that direction, but you're getting all of these things that are sabotaging it, you've got to look back at yourself and ask yourself, well, why? Have I actually listened properly? Am I making the right choices? Is this exactly right for me? Am I sabotaging myself? What is it that's happening that's stopping me from walking along this path with ease? And there's always some answer that's got to do with your heart-mind connection, but also any kind of sabotaging that your subconscious mind might have to actually reaching your goals. And we kind of cover that all in our course, and I'll be covering that in some of the lives as well. So if nobody's got any questions, I really hope that's helpful. Chuck any comments or any questions below. I'd really love to hear from you. And otherwise, have an awesome week. I'll see you next week. Keep tuning into our page, because any day now we'll be launching this, and I'm super excited to share this with you. Have a good day. Bye.